AMP2.TV presents Tell Us Your Business, where you're invited on the air to tell us what makes your business stand out in the community. It's important we hear from you to tell us all we need to know about what you do best. Tell Us Your Business uses the latest radio and television production systems, and all shows can be seen on AMP2.TV. If you have a question for our guest, call 888-565-1470. Now, let's get ready as our guest hits the airwaves and informs us about what we need to know on Tell Us Your Business.
Good.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Tell Us Your Biz. I am your host for this next half hour, Sandra Noemi Torres, and I have a wonderful guest with me today, Mr. Gustavo Flores.
I hope I'm an interesting guest. I think I will be an interesting guest. I am playing Stedman to your Oprah Winfrey, and so we felt like it would make for an interesting conversation to, you know what they say, behind every great Latina woman is no one. And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about. Yes. You actually do have someone behind you. You and I are involved in a lovingly wonderful relationship that we don't even know how to classify because we don't like social norms and constructs. I always say you're my almost wife. I guess I'm your almost husband. But we feel like sometimes challenged as to, because I'm not your boyfriend. We were talking about that on the way in, right?
That's such an old, outdated term. It just doesn't even apply anymore.
Yeah, and so it's like I'm your man friend. It doesn't work either. And I know that you used to say, oh, my partner, and somebody thought that you were in a lesbian relationship. Yep. And I'm not.
Yes.
But so we hope that over the next few minutes that we're together, we'll talk about some really great stuff. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, thank you for being here. And just for some of you that don't know, I am the president of United Latinas. It's an organization that works to help and support Latina women, all women, with a focus specifically on Hispanic women. And we're talking today about women and women empowerment and the tools that they need and all these constructs. There's just so much with women empowerment. And we always talk about what's missing with Hispanic women specifically.
Yeah, and so what in the world does a man have to say about what Latin women are doing? But again, we thought it would make for an interesting conversation. I'm sure all of the women that adore you and love you and admire you, and they all should. It's amazing to sort of be the person on the sidelines that's watching it all happen. And I think that it is important that people know that this isn't some sort of overly matriarchal movement that doesn't take into consideration a man's perspective, because you and I have fantastic conversations around the table and on the couch and otherwise that we're sometimes like, oh man, we really wish there was a venue for us to sort of share these things, because I'm sure that some of these women are that you serve so wonderfully. Well, maybe it's important to hear, a man's perspective that actually supports that. Maybe they have that, maybe they don't have that. Regardless, we felt like it would make an interesting conversation as to why, particularly in Latin culture,
yes,
it's beneficial for a man to be behind the empowerment of a woman, and for a man to sort of consider what a matriarchal sort of construct for a relationship looks like, because I'm all for it. I am, and we'll probably delve into that a little bit more about the world and how things have been pretty much the men set the table, and why it shouldn't be such a strange thing to sort of say, well, let's see what happens when the women take over. I'm waiting for you ladies, take over. I'm good. I've seen the guy side of it. I'm dying to see the woman side of it. So we're going to delve into a few topics, I think, that'll be of interest and hopefully help some people.
Yes. So one of the things really is the confidence and courage that we need to kind of really bring out in women. And I want to share a quick story. Shared with you a couple days ago, this story. I had a conversation with a gentleman, and we're always talking about strong women. And a strong woman knows her strength, right? I'm sure there's a lot of strong women listening to this right now. But he brought something to my attention that really was eye-opening. He said, you know what? I've worked with top strong women. And I've noticed that when they are in an environment where it's a table full of men, their strength seems to diminish a little bit. They seem to hunch down and kind of almost innately, subconsciously, kind of reduce themselves a little bit.
Yep.
And that happens a lot in a lot of boardrooms, in a lot of offices where women are kind of feeling like that. Granted, there's different scenarios and there's all different types of women, but those women, the women that are kind of feeling strong, but you're backing down in your own strength when you're surrounded around masculine energy, that is what we should focus on, and those of you I want to help. I'd love to have you attend one of our events as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, one of the really, I think, fantastic conversations that we had just recently was about, I love so much what United Latinas does, because, and we try to codify that. We try to put a lot of the philosophy in what it is exactly that you do, so that we can sort of interpret that and communicate that to people that wonder, what is this? Is this just a networking thing? It's more than that.
Exactly.
Is this just like a political movement? We hope it can become that. Is this just a thing for women? It's primarily for underserved women within an entrepreneurial community, but it's even more than that. It's sort of to I think point out things that maybe we don't know are that way. And so one of the things that you and I talked about that was, I think, really great was the privilege that men have in the corporate setting where their gender doesn't factor in at all. And so one of the things that I love that you do for women, and I don't even know if they realize that you do it for them or do it to them. I don't know how you would say that. And we were trying to put a word on it, and we came up with this gender neutrability thing.
Yes.
It's the idea that you are able. I wish you could see this on video if you are. She's a wonderfully beautiful woman, but I could totally understand why someone would be like, what? But you do this thing that right away disarms the notion without losing your femininity that, hey, this is about business, And so now it almost, because like men never worry about that stuff, right? Like men never really worry about like, well, are you going to be able to are you going to be strong enough to do this job? And so, obviously the term gender neutrality and all of that exists. However, I think what happens in the community of United Latinas is this gender neutrability, where not only do you diffuse that in men, but then you also encourage the woman that's in the vicinity or nearby or with you to where she sort of also realizes, my gender doesn't factor into this, and not to be too controversial, but because it was part of the conversation, like, we don't need a first woman president. We need a good president. And if she happens to be a woman, man, fantastic.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But just particularly in Hispanic culture, the idea of an entrepreneurial woman in the first place is all wrong.
Exactly.
For some people. But then also when that Latin woman enters into a corporate setting, and I mean, hey, listen, if she's attractive and she has that Latin sass and all the thing, that's one part of who she is, and it's appropriate in certain settings. But in the corporate setting, it's important to carry yourself in such a way to diffuse all that. It's like, hey,
exactly.
I'm here. But again, without being unkind and without being like, I mean, you're a beautiful woman. You don't have to. It's sad, right? One of the things that we talked about was how some women, hey, you know what? I can't do my hair nice at work, or I gotta wear flats, or they lose their feminine, in the pursuit of what some people think is equality. In order for me to be equal, I gotta be a man. No way. I say no way to that.
Yes, I love that. And it's true. We really need to master the energy that's inside of us, and I think diffusing that, like you said, it's subconscious, you don't even recognize it. When you feel so confident in your nest and who you are and the person that you are and what you have to bring to the table or what you have to bring to life, you can own that energy and feel like no one can intimidate you in any form. And that is what we need to kind of keep honing and keep practicing and keep leading. And that's what we do at United Latinas, which is workshops that really cater to a lot of those things.
Yes, because I think that particularly in the Latin community, the women, business women are underserved.
Yeah.
So I work in a fantastic environment where most of the leadership is women. And I can, and I think I said it to you, I think that 99% of the women that I work with and 100% of the leadership women that I work with, it's not even a factor, because they carry themselves in such a way.
Yeah.
Now, but in the Hispanic community, there's, I think, a misplacement of of our culture, where it's sort of like, hey, there's a lot of traditionalism in Hispanic culture. There's also gender roles. Some of those are appropriate. For some people, it works. For others, it doesn't work. But in the corporate setting, it's interesting, because it's almost like a relief for me as a human being and as a man, that I love that doesn't even factor in. I don't worry about at work, like, oh man, is this thing going to be handled right? It's being handled by this woman.
Yeah.
It's not, and in some instances, and I work in the advertising business, when we work with certain talent and certain vendors, like directors, like we make TV commercials, and I'm sometimes almost preferable to a woman, not because she's attractive but because there's sort of a woman that can overcome those things.
Yes.
There's a power, and there's also, I think, a confidence and an overcoming that, for that woman to level up to that place, she's a quality human being, and she's going to get stuff done for you.
Yeah, for sure. Now, what do you think would be, from a male's perspective, like something that you see is the problem, and why it is that way?
Oh gosh, I think we only have 30 minutes. But I think I think it all begins with intention.
Yeah.
Right. And so you
word.
have to, with intention. And since we're talking business, right? Forget about the idealism of equality. Equality and gender neutrality and initiating gender neutrality for a woman is good business. And so I think every business person, and we're talking about men, I think every man who's an entrepreneur and is a business owner wants to do everything that they can to maximize their profit. I mean, that's the fiduciary responsibility of any business owner.
Sure.
To his company, to himself, to his shareholders, is, man, we've got to make money.
Yeah.
And time again, you can look at real studies and real surveys and real statistics, that demonstrate that these sort of idealistic kinds of things are really good for the bottom line.
Yeah.
And so you have to, with intention, say, okay, we've done our best with our marketing, we've done our best with our culture, we've done our best with our mission statement, we've done, how are we, let's take a look at, are we empowering the women in my sphere of influence? Or, because that's sort of trite also, like this, I'm going to empower you. I'm not going to empower you. But I think that for a man, if he has the privilege to see, and I have that privilege to see the empowerment of other women through the organization of United Latinas and your efforts as a business coach and otherwise, a consultant and all the things that you do. I think if a man has a privilege to see that, is to sort of observe that and figure, how do I leverage that to my benefit? How do I stoke that fire to my benefit? Now, you and I aren't in business together, but we've been together now 5 years. I've stoked it into personal growth for myself and stoked it into our relationship.
Yes.
And sometimes it's counter-cultural to me, because I'm 48 years old.
Yeah.
I look a lot younger, I'm sure, on video. And so some of it's new to me as well. But
Yes.
I fully embrace it. I love it, because I see when I benefit in all sorts of ways, personally, and I would imagine professionally. And I do, because I see it happening at work. But again, in the Latin community, it's underserved, so I don't see the journey.
Exactly, and you said a good word, countercultural, and that's the stigma in the minds, right? So working with Hispanic women and just hearing and seeing these stories, ideally it's these things that are happening now with social media, with video, with content development, all of these things that we need to be doing more of as professionals, as entrepreneurs, as business owners. We need to be embracing the technology of what it is today, yet it is countercultural.
Yeah.
Historically. So where things are, those people have done it. Now the Hispanic and Latino community has to come out and has to embrace all of these things wholeheartedly to become better, to evolve as professionals, as business owners. And it's that mindset that, you know what, my grandmother did it this way, or this is foreign to them, or they would think this is crazy. Or you had a great example with your dad. Yes, this is, why would I do that? Why would I go on radio? Why would I do these things that maybe are foreign or maybe take you outside of your comfort zone? And it's the comfort zone that is your enemy. You know, as women, we get too comfortable And when something's comfortable, things that are intimidating are just you don't even attempt those things, and they need to be attempted,
Yeah, and so I think one of the many things that I love about your approach to helping entrepreneurial women is it's holistic, right? Particularly if somebody is under your wing as being coached by you, is that there's this yes, there is the practical I think equipping of a business person with, hey, this is what LinkedIn is about, this is what social media is about, this is what a business plan looks like, this is what a pitch deck is, all of those things that you do really, really well for people, and then where appropriate and when appropriate, I think it's like, hey, but you understand that there's a big part of your personal that is going to affect your professional. So let's delve in that way. And so then you delve into it's almost spiritual. Like, I don't want to say that it's purely spiritual, but it certainly is metaphysical, right? It's not just about something that you learn. It's about the perceptions that you have about yourself, how you think about yourself, what your worldview is, where that comes from, religious,
Exactly.
spiritual, and otherwise. You tread lightly. I love how you do that. And so, but where you can, you sort of begin to have those conversations about how do you see yourself and why do you see yourself that way? And sometimes we see ourselves the way someone else told you should see yourself.
Exactly.
And that can be really, really unhealthy because, and you can be living someone else's view of who you are. And so that's one of the things that I think distinguishes the approach that United Latina has in the way that they deal with the business person. It's also a person. It's also a human being.
Yeah.
And so we all have certain, I think, some people say baggage or however you want to call it. I mean, I don't want to say that you're a therapist, but I mean, gosh, even a bartender could be a therapist. So why not your business coach, right? And so you talk to the women about how they see themselves and how they should see themselves and where all of that comes from.
For sure.
And where it should go.
And that's extremely important to me as a person and just in general to business development. To grow in your business, you have to have the right mindset. You have to have the right beliefs within yourself to do any of those things. And yes, so when people say, okay, you're a business coach, oh, that's like a life coach, everybody's a life coach.
That's another thing you struggle with, right? Is that you don't conform to these one thing. Yes, I know. And I'm not telling you anything you don't know. There's a stigma attached to what some people call what you do, but we haven't figured it out. We're starting with gender neutrality for what happens. We don't know what to call you, but we will, and when we figure it out, we'll let everybody know.
Yes. So, and that's what evolves, through the business coaching, through the workshops, because in essence, yes, I'm a business coach, I'm a personal development coach, but I facilitate these workshops for women and I absolutely bring all of me to the table. And that's the point, that's really where I want to support women and where I want to help women to evolve, because I guess ultimately, we all need to be our own heroes, and I know what I didn't have, in my early 20s and in my 30s, even, what I needed. I know what I needed. And it wasn't around, it was somebody that looked like me, that ate the same similar foods, that understood the journey of the Hispanic woman and can say, what, I know what you're dealing with. Let me pull you up. And that didn't exist for me. I mean, even when you Google the term Hispanic women or Latina, it is, we're not rated for our intellect. We're rated for physical, which is okay. But no, I mean, it's not okay.
It is and it isn't, right? So, I mean, and you almost have to be careful. If you, for anybody that's listening to us, grab your phone and Google Latina women. Yeah. And you'll be offended by some of the things that you see. And why is that?
Exactly.
And what is that? And so it's a very real thing that
hinders that has that plays a role with you feeling comfortable in a room full of anything. And that's where a lot of women don't go to a lot of networking events. There's not a lot of Hispanic women that are going to mix networking events. They're coming out, but they're not coming out to the level of what they should be.
Right.
So what's keeping them at home? Why do they feel insecure or lack courage? Or just feel intimidated. Maybe
and this is why I think, and I can be the pitch guy, I guess, the hype guy. This is why I think if you're within the listening area of my voice and you are a Latina entrepreneur, man, you'd be well and wise to come check out a meeting. And here's why. Because a lot of times people are not confident because they say, I don't know this thing. So you say, okay, let me show you this thing. And then what you might find is that you still don't have a whole lot of confidence, even though you know it. So what's behind that? And part of that is community, right? And so you'll find like-minded business people, some of the most progressive and forward-thinking people that you haven't heard of yet, that you will hear of one day. And there's a great opportunity this Thursday, right? That you're doing another workshop, I think, out at
West Focal Library.
What is sort of becoming the home of these workshops, the United Latinas workshop home of the Boca Raton Library in West Boca. And that's on Thursday. Thursday, August the 22nd.
Yes.
From 11 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Yes.
And I think that anyone who is serious about their business and approaching it in a way that is holistic, the way that United Latinas does, where you absolutely empower through education and empower through inspiration and empower through communication, should attend that and really look into becoming a member. I think it's invaluable.
Definitely. Thank you for that.
I wish I could join, but
I know we get men all the time. We will do mixer events, and men are invited. So we do embrace the masculine.
Sure.
Every now and then. But yes, this Thursday, August 22nd, from 11 to 1. Please be there a little bit early. Women tend to be a little late.
Well, here's what we say, right? If you're on time, you're already late.
Exactly.
So you want to get there 10 minutes or so late, and you might have an opportunity to talk to somebody. You definitely want to talk to this lady. I have the privilege of getting to talk to her all the time, and it's good to even just have a 2 or 3 minute conversation with her. You'll be impressed.
Yay, thank you. But it's fun. We get so much great feedback. If you have. If you know anyone that's been to any of our events, I would love for you to ask them, how their experience was, because we get tremendous feedback. It's positive. It's great energy. We keep that vibe alive in there. Every woman that comes in there feels it like we are different. So in reference to networking events and exactly what we do, and you touched on it very perfectly, where women go to an event and they typically listen to somebody speak, and then you're sitting there and then you network for a little bit afterwards. That's not what we do. Our events are completely interactive. We engage the audience members to really participate in the discussion of what we're doing. And, it just benefits everyone. Everyone loves that. They're not just sitting there listening, but they're learning through engagement.
Yeah. No, I think it's wonderful. I think that from what I've witnessed, it's an amazing thing for women to hear the need that they have that they perhaps didn't even know that they had, right? And I've often said of you, like, if you're a superhero, your origin story is you're that young spirited entrepreneur who needed someone to come and say, hey, I know this is what your circumstances are. I know this is what your culture is. And there was no one there for you.
No.
And you had some things to overcome. And you sort of had to stumble and fall and skin your knee and fall off a cliff a few times to sort of figure it all out. And so a lot of times, Sandra Noemi, she speaks to that young entrepreneur from 20, I don't want to say how long ago, but from a couple of decades ago, you're speaking to her. And so that's why it resonates, because what that young woman needed all those years ago is what these women, some young and some not, and that's why it resonates. It may not resonate with every person that walks through there, but hey, listen, there is that person that there are many more than you might think that need that, and you're a success story, and we want to see many more success stories.
Yep. And our age group is a little tender to the heart. So our age group is roughly between like 35 to 55, 60. So we do get a lot of that. Our age group. Yeah. I said hour in a big window, right? Keep you guessing. Yeah. But we do get, and it goes to show that the mindset. These women know, listen, I know I need to change some of these things. Something needs to be addressed, like the older women that come. So
sure. And again, there's like, well, hey, I don't know about social media, so I'm going to go there. And in some sense, maybe that's the carrot or the fish that you use.
Yes.
It's also something that they really do need to know.
Exactly.
But there are I think other things, that in the community of United Latinas that is addressed. Yes. That there are a lot of light bulb moments, for women, and
for sure,
because these are not just one-time conversations. It's a journey, and to know that you have a tribe of sisters with you.
Yes.
And there's a sisterhood and there's a
Exactly.
support community.
Exactly.
And when these ladies get together and they talk and they share and say, hey, I closed a deal this week, or hey, I didn't, or whatever the
Yeah.
case might be. I think there's much value
in a
that.
bilingual environment, right?
Yes.
Where you're embraced, and we're talking about both. Like you're living in the United States of America. Some of these women are from South America. So and me from Puerto Rico. I was born in Puerto Rico. So it's the battle of struggling. Where do I fit in?
Yeah.
And United Latinas embraces this bilingualness, this biculturalness, this struggle between two worlds. You are American and you are a Hispanic.
So, and here's what's wonderful about it, right? Because there are some second generation Hispanics, and they're not Latin enough, and
Yes,
so
that's how women feel.
in some instances, you might feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know Spanish that well, so I don't want to go. That's okay. We want people that don't speak Spanish so well.
Yes.
And then you might say, well, I don't want to go because I don't speak English so well. That's okay. We want people that don't speak English so well.
Yeah.
And then we'll all figure it out together.
Yes.
It's wonderful.
It's about growth. It's about growth. It's about evolution. It's about stepping your game up. It's about getting the business tools that you need. It's about getting the mindset that you need. And it's about developing the energy and the courage that you need to go and pursue the things that you want in life, so that it doesn't inhibit your growth. So again, it's unitedlatinas.com if you're interested in checking out our events. And just a reminder, it's Thursday, August 22nd from 11 to 1 at the West Boca Library. And that's August 22nd. And we're
Check them out on Facebook.
Facebook.
Check them out on Instagram.
In LinkedIn, guys.
And LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. It is your power tool. If you are a professional, be on LinkedIn. Okay, you need to be on LinkedIn. Make sure that you connect with me on LinkedIn as Sandra Torres. So linkedin.com/in and then Sandra Torres.
Hey, babe, they're wrapping us up. Thank you
Yes.
so much. It was a wonderful conversation. Let's do it again sometime.
I would love to. United Latinas, guys. Take care. Have a blessed day.
This has been Tell Us Your Business, where a special guest comes on every week and tells us what they do. All shows can be seen on amp2.tv, and if you wish to be a guest, call 866-224-5422 and tell us about your business. That's 866-224-5422. This has been an amp2.tv production.